Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Ridgecrest City Council here on April 20th, 2022. If I can call this meeting to order with our roll call. You told me to start.
Yeah, I know. Mayor Bruin?
Here.
Mr. Blades?
Present.
Mr. Rajaratnam?
Present.
Mr. Heyman?
Present.
Ms. Breeden?
Present.
5 present, we have a quorum.
Thank you. First item for today is approval of our agenda. Do I have any amendments or changes to the agenda as presented?
No, sir.
Hearing none, do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Please vote. 5 ayes, motion carries.
Thank you very much. So if I can go and ask everyone to please stand to open our regular session with the Pledge of Allegiance. Captain. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Councilman Rajaratnam.
Please join me in prayer if you would. Lord, thank you for giving us this day. Thank you for the blessing of liberty and freedom which you have given to our country, Lord. Lord, be with our leadership. Give them your guidance. Lord, I pray for troops who are in harm's way. Lord, protect them from all evil. Pray for the sick and suffering. Give them your healing touch, Lord. Lord, I pray for the city council as we discuss about many issues. Give us your wisdom and let our decisions be useful to this community. Bless each one of us here. In Jesus' precious, I pray. Amen.
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 Okay, we have 2 proclamations to present this evening. And we'll go ahead and go first with the National Donate to Life. If I can ask the rest of my council to join me at the podium.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, I'll be giving a proclamation from the City of Ridgecrest it will be with the One Legacy Ambassador Rick Casper and his wife Philip Casper. And so they're with the One Legacy organization, and so I will go ahead and read off. This is a proclamation of the City of Ridgecrest, California, whereas organ, tissue, marrow, and blood donation are life-giving acts recognized worldwide as expressions of compassion to those in need. And whereas more than 100,000 individuals nationwide and more than 20,000 in California are currently on the National Organ Transplant waiting list, and on average 17 people die each day while waiting due to the shortage of donated organs. And whereas the need for donated organs is especially urgent in Hispanic, Latino, and African American communities. And whereas a single individual's donation of the heart, lungs, liver, kidneys, pancreas, and small intestine can save up to 8 lives. Donation of tissue can save and heal the lives of up to 75 others. And whereas any person can register to be an organ, eye, and tissue donor regardless of age or medical conditions. And whereas being a registered donor does not impact the quality of life-saving medical care a person receives in any emergency. And whereas California residents can sign up with the Donate Life California Donor Registry online at any time by visiting www.donatelifecalifornia.org, or for Spanish speakers, www.vidacalifornia.org. And whereas California residents can sign up with the Donate Life California Donor Registry when applying for or renewing their driver's licenses or ID cards at the California Department of Motor Vehicles. Now, therefore, be resolved that in recognition of the National Donate Life Month, the month of April 2022 is hereby proclaimed DMV Donate Life Month in the City of Ridgecrest, and in doing so, we encourage all Californians to check yes when applying for or renewing their driver's license or ID card. This is proclaimed this 20th day of April 2022 by Mayor Eric Bruin, myself, Kyle Blades, Solomon Rajaratnam, and Peggy Breeden. Thank you guys very much. I know this is a very important process that takes place across the country, and it saves lives, and we thank you very much for your time and effort in this, and I'd like for you, if you have anything you'd like to add to it tonight, feel free. So this is you. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, so feel free to stand up and mic. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you, City Council, Mayor. Donate Life is quite something that brings us all together as humans and wishing to take care of people and our loved ones and remembering our loved ones. With bone, tissue, and organ donation, we're able to continue that life. And working with One Legacy, my wife and I have found it as a great, oh, okay, as a great.
Otherwise, the YouTubers can't hear you at all.
Oh, okay. As a great way to spread the wealth of living life to its fullest and remembering people. The wife and I have recently found out that when we lost our son some 13 years ago now, that our son was able to help
98 people.
Through tissue and organ tissue donation. We lost him through a terrible loss. We all have demons we fight with, and so that's how we lost him. And in remembering him and those 194 people that were able to continue on living the life that he chose to, and every day we honor him when we put on this shirt and wear the pin of remembering Josh. And in 2019, we were honored to share that legacy of Josh with a florograph on the Donate Life One Legacy float. And we've all seen the floragraphs that are on there. And we found that a great joy in spreading the wealth of continuing people to give the chance of life to people that may be in a life-threatening situation, or to better their lives through tissue and bone grafts and those type of donations. So on behalf of that, again, thank you.
Thank you so much.
And great help with continuing the word of One Legacy and Donate Life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That was an incredible story.
Thank you.
Well, I get to do the second proclamation of the night, and I said, as I was sitting back there and hearing the story, I thought I'd share just a quick story, and that was that it's been 18 years. It's been my pleasure to be a part of this community, and I think I met Carol Beecroft back in 2005 when we both were working on a project at the same time that became a joy to work with a gentleman by the name of Michael Pierce, and Mike has left us, and so since I get this moment, Mike, thanks for all the guidance that you did provide this community. We still are indebted to you. So with that, I get to read a proclamation of the City of Ridgecrest, California, for Sexual Assault Awareness Month. Whereas nationally, 1 in 3 women and 1 in 4 men will experience some form of sexual assault in their lifetime, and Sexual Assault Awareness Month draws attention to the fact that sexual violence is widespread and has implications for every community member. And whereas there is compelling evidence that we can be successful in reducing sexual violence through prevention education, increased awareness, and holding perpetrators who commit acts of violence responsible for their actions. And whereas we must work together to educate our community about what can be done to prevent sexual assault and how to support survivors. And whereas anyone can be a leader in preventing and ending sexual assault. As employers, educators, parents, and friends, we all must uphold the fundamental principle that every individual should be free from violence and fear. And whereas our theme for Sexual Assault Awareness Month this year is Start the Conversation, we encourage every person to start conversations about what sexual assault is, how to prevent it, help survivors connect with services, and speak out against its harmful attitudes and actions. This is why we are hosting community events such as a Walk for Survivors and our community meet and greet. Now, therefore, be it resolved, the City Council of the City of Ridgecrest does hereby proclaim the month of April as Sexual Assault Awareness Month, proclaim this 20th day of April 2022, the Ridgecrest City Council. And I want to ask the group of the Women's Shelter to come on up here for just a moment so I can present this to them. But I also want to remind the community what an incredible resource and just how fortunate we are to have the Women's Shelter as part of the City of Ridgecrest and as part of our community. This team has worked tirelessly to continue to protect both men and women from any type of assault or also the challenges of abuse. Their message of Start the Conversation, I'm still amazed how much I've learned even just what this means. And if anybody doesn't know what that means, I have small children. I like to imagine what I'm going to be like as a dad later on in life when they're in that moment and I have a baby girl. And the moment I learned what this was, I memorized it and I made her 3 brothers memorize it. And for those of you that don't know, that's the sign that you need help. That's the sign that you're in need of crisis intervention. Another great trick is they show the tricks of the coffee cup being dropped, or there's other things. And this group has worked tirelessly for this community since 1978. I was going to say 35 plus years, and I'm glad I didn't because it's over 40. So with that, thank you very much. Allow me to present this to you. And come on forward and feel free to join a few words.
So I just want to thank the City of Ridgecrest for everything you guys have done for us here at the Women's Center. We have been part of this community for over 40 years. And my message here today, if it makes you uncomfortable, it should be talked about. And that's why I put there, start the conversation. Because there's a lot of times, like us youthful, I would say, don't want to talk about these kind of things. It's very hard for us to talk about. It's hard for us to talk about this with the older generation because it's a very different climax. When I was working with the building for the school board and trying to help them out, a lot of us came to an agreement that sexual assault and domestic violence is not talked about enough in schools. It's not talked about enough in our community. And if it made everybody feel uncomfortable, but I was like, yes, we have to talk about it. So I just want to thank you for everything you guys have done for us. And that's all I have.
I just have something. I would just like to introduce the president of the board of directors. He's here on his day job's business, but Justin, could you stand up, please? Justin Dampierre has been with our board for, I don't know how long, forever. And he helps a lot. He provides support to me when I have questions. And I just want to tell you how much we appreciate the time you give to us. Thank you. And thank you, Eric, for... And I also want to thank Eric Bruin in his day job. We wouldn't be able to do...
We don't talk about the day job.
We wouldn't be able to do the things we do without Desert Valleys Bank. They've always been real supportive of the projects that we have. So again, I want to thank everybody and the community of Ridgecrest. And please join us for the walk that we're having. Oh, we already did the walk, right? The meet and greet. That's going to be the 23rd, right over Freedom Park. So thank you. If you have any questions, you can always call our office. We take anonymous calls. And if you're concerned about somebody, just let us know, and we'll try to provide some support and information to you. Thanks. from 10 to 2.
Thank you. We're back to our regularly scheduled programming. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you both to both of those groups. It's such a nice moment to be able to talk about, especially to hear Josh's story and 194 people. That's incredible.
Amazing.
Okay, next item on our agenda this evening is our public comment of items not on the agenda. Persons wishing to address the council on matters that are within the council's jurisdiction and do not already appear on the agenda may do so at this time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the City Council may not take action on any item that does not appear on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes, and the public comment section of the agenda is limited to 1 hour. Each speaker is asked to provide his or her name. Do I have any public comment from the floor? Seeing none, do I have any public comment on the phones? Seeing none, I'm going to allow 30 seconds to pass in order to make sure that there are no other public comments on the phone.
Who's going to sing?
Just give it a few seconds. I don't have to be 30 seconds exactly. I just want to give it a second. Okay? Seeing no other public comment, we'll close the public comment section of our agenda and move on to council announcements. Council announcements, I'll go ahead and start right to left. Peggy?
I have none, thank you.
None here.
So I have 3. One is slightly self-serving and the other 2 are not. The first is I want to offer a huge shout out and thanks to Alta One Federal Credit Union for an incredible kickoff to our Movies in the Park series. On the Friday before Easter, they showed Peter Rabbit 2. I said it, they raised the bar of expectations and they did a great job bringing our community out. There had to have been 2,000 plus people out there, I would easily argue. And they made sure that every kid had a great time. And my compliments to the entire team at Alta One for a spectacular event. Piggybacking on that, Friday, May 6th is our next movie in the park with the now Oscar-winning Encanto. And that will be at also in the park. That is being sponsored by Toyota of Ridgecrest. And if they're listening or watching, the bar's been set. We look forward to seeing what you bring out for Encanto. And it's also an open house with our Ridgecrest Police Department that day from 6 to 8 p.m. Come out and meet your officers. Come in and ask those questions. We are all human beings, I assure you, up here and on the staff side. And the more you get to actually talk and get to know us, the more you'll really even more so understand us and our motivations and what we're trying to do to build our community. And so the bar's up there, okay? And RPD, you might have to pick up, the bar too. And finally, the self-serving one is that I'd like to invite any teen, well, that would be any child between the ages of 13 and 19, to join all local credit unions at the Desert Empire Fairgrounds this weekend from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. will be the return of our Bite of Reality event. So Bite of Reality is a 2-hour interactive game of life for teenagers where we will take them through 9 stages of life, including understanding utilities, transportation, housing, childcare, and all the other expenses, and we'll break them. And the point of it is to teach them how budgeting and decision-making work in our financial lives, and it's a key element to financial literacy, which is a skill which is unfortunately not taught in our schools today, and it does have a negative impact on young adults understanding their credit, understanding their debts, and understanding what those impacts are on their later life. So I'd like to invite any teenager out there, parents, it's 2 hours of free babysitting for anybody who's 13 to 19, and on top of that, it's free. We'd love to see you out at the Desert Empire Fairgrounds. With that, Solomon?
I had the opportunity to attend the groundbreaking ceremony on the base today. This is the 10th and the last groundbreaking ceremony. So in future, you will be seeing the ribbon cuttings, the fruit of the groundbreaking ceremonies. So I also had a speaking assignment. Hope that went well. And Councilman Blades was there. So we had good time. So it was nice to talk to all the base officials and other people there. Thank you.
I have no significant announcements other than Solomon did very well, and it was good to hear you speak because there was a list of speakers, and Solomon gave a very good message of solidarity between the community and the base, and especially about just the base being the backbone, and then in reverse, you had Captain Scott get up and say the same thing. Hey, we rely on you guys too. So, Solomon, thanks for the words today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Well, thank you both for doing that. Did you get a shovel? Did you get a shovel? I'm so proud of my shovel for some reason. I don't know why. I actually now have it hanging on my wall.
We got cool e-tool shovels with a metal thing on it. You gotta know a guy.
Oh, you gotta know a guy. Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So you gotta know a guy. That's fantastic. Thank you guys for being out there, and I can't stress enough how excited we are to see the continued construction and projects that are going on at the base. It's to the public, it's momentum you are not seeing, but I guarantee you are seeing in ways you may not realize. Okay. Next item is our consent calendar. All items listed on the consent are considered to be routine and non-controversial by city staff. Consent items may be approved by one motion if no member of the council or audience wishes to comment or ask questions. If comment or discussion is desired by anyone, the item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered in listed sequence with an opportunity for any member of the public or to address the city council concerning the item. The one item on our consent calendar this evening is item number 3, proposed action to approve draft minutes of the Ridgecrest City Council regular meeting dated April 6, 2022. Do I have any member of the council which wishes to have the item pulled? Do I have any member of the public that wishes to have the item pulled? Hearing none, do I have a motion for approval of the consent calendar?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and second.
Please vote. Mr. Heyman?
You didn't push hard.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Too quick. Don't get me in trouble. Next item is item number 4. This is a resolution of the Ridgecrest City Council to appropriate a portion of the American Rescue Plan Act funds. Matt, welcome to the show.
Evening,
It's
Mayor.
your time to get some investment.
And Mayor and members of the council. I am bringing to you the first of 3 IT projects that we brought to you in November of 2021 of the ARPA projects. This one is the Wi-Fi project. Our current infrastructure looks similar to this. We currently have 8 antiquated access points that service the city. We have 4 of them over at City Hall, 3 at Kern McGee Center, and 1 at a WAN site. And you can see here the throughput through these client devices that we're looking at right now. A little bit of background on this project is it was kind of birthed through COVID and getting the throughput needed for our conferencing. So we saw with the the CARES Act funds that we used to do the modernization of this room, and also the conferencing room, that we started using conferencing a lot more. You know, we started using our laptops. We were mobile within the within the city, and we realized that the infrastructure didn't quite support us. So that's where this project came from. The new infrastructure would be 44 high-performance Wi-Fi 6 access points. And you can see that the throughput through these ones is a lot higher than the antiquated ones that we have right now. And so that's really going to fortify our network, especially our mobile network, for employees to be able to make them mobile within the city, because we did notice that once we could, congregate in areas, have meetings wherever we want, to be able to, to reach out to peers outside of the agency from anywhere within the city, it really worked well for us. And these are delivered through our regular Cat 6 network, which is our regular cables, which will be run in-house, which is kind of nice. And they're powered through those, so they are delivered directly back to our network backbone, and so they will all have emergency power in case of power outages, stuff like that.
These are POEs?
These are POEs, that's correct. And the higher throughput devices are actually are trunked to where there's two network cables that go to them, so they have 2 gigs of throughput through them. The devices have a lifespan of roughly 5 years, and really they'll live longer than that. A lot of Wi-Fi devices live longer than that, but you see technology move so quickly that 5 years is about the time that you end up starting to refresh. And I mean, sometimes it's before that, but these things, with Wi-Fi 6 having gig throughput, two devices, that's pretty much what you're seeing as a standard delivery of wired networking components to your endpoints. Outdoor access. One thing that whenever we were talking about this project, this is one of the things that we wanted to focus on too, is being able to service Freedom Park, our gazebo, things like that. If we have weddings, if we have events, so we'll be able to to give branded Wi-Fi if people would like that, to provide a little bit more of a service in those areas. A little caveat to that. While these devices have a lot of range, your device doesn't have a lot of range. The iPhone in your pocket can't quite reach as far back. So that is the limitation. The limitation is the device that is trying to reach out to our access points. So while we can cover all of Freedom Park, can the device get all the way back to our hardware? Not all the time. So that's kind of where, and you can see that with our average throughput, depending on device depending on the distance to the device. With this, we're going to be adding a couple switches in our network infrastructure. A couple of them being in our server room, and a couple in our access level sites. So a couple years ago, I think it was about 5 years ago, we did a network refresh, which was our firewalls, our backbone switches, and this is adding to that with a couple of the access layer switches that we didn't replace. So we'll do a little bit of switch roulette to make sure that the Aruba's devices are with the Arubas, because as of right now we have Cisco Catalyst devices, and the trend in networking right now is Cisco is going more to big business, and they're selling more subscription type products to big businesses, and the buy-in for smaller businesses is getting a lot higher. So Aruba is kind of taking Cisco's small business strategy that they had before and providing that product. So whenever we go to a network refresh later on, this is kind of where we're leaning. So we want to get some of these devices and get them into the network, get a feel for them, and make sure that that's the right course of action later on with a subsequent network refresh. Here's a heat map of the first floor, and you can see here that the council chambers is green. We are placing some higher density access points in bigger areas that will have a lot of users. So council chambers being one of them. If we want to pack the house and we want to give everybody, access to a Wi-Fi, whether it be branded for an event or whether it be our personal Wi-Fi, then those devices are going to give us that, that capability. You can also see that there's a lot of red in there, and you can see that whenever this was given to the Aruba Network engineers, that we gave them the schematics in green, and so while the council chambers looks askew with color, that's actually red. You're gonna see good throughput throughout that entire room. Onto the second floor coverage. And really what you're seeing here is solid coverage throughout any of these rooms. And here's the Parks and Recreation coverage map. One thing that we definitely wanted to focus on was the big banquet rooms, to be able to service a lot of people in those, if we have graduations, if we have banquets, if we have any type of meetings. So that's going to allow us to do it by having a lot more widespread coverage in that building there. So with this is fortifying our wireless infrastructure within the city to be able to connect to our internal services, such as their remote or their virtual desktops, their email, everything like that. And alongside that, we're going to see opportunities with internet moving forward to be able to give a bigger pipe of for internet for them being able to get out. As of right now, we have them segregated onto a different network that because we do have a redundant internet connection of two providers. We put them off on our secondary provider that way that they don't congest our network. And so that's kind of the way it sits right now, but with opportunities in the future, it's going to be nice that both the networks will be fortified with quite a bit of bandwidth. That's pretty much all I had. This project is let's see here. Let me get my notes on this real quick. Let's see here where we at. $51,482.56 is our quote on this one, and then an additional $7,700 of contingency funds, which will include all of our cabling, all of our if anything comes up, small tools and supplies from hardware store, stuff like that. So for a grand total of $59,182.56. That's all I have.
Thank you, Matt. So I have technical questions, but I want to be last. So I'm going to let other people ask questions, and then I'll go. So
I have a question. Considering the fact that we were pretty antiquated with some of our facilities, in 5 years, you're saying we're going to have to redo it again, approximately. Look into the future and tell me, are we going to have to replace everything? Will we still spend $60,000 to make that happen? And can you give us a realistic figure of how to plan for that?
So with that, what we're going to be looking at during this rollout is the access points that are hot zones. If there's going to, if people aren't going to be using these certain access points, and we're going to cut them out in the next iteration. And so, while do I think that the bill is going to be the same? Probably due to inflation, but I don't think that we're going to have to need quite as big of a network build out. However, the caveat to that is technology does change. If we become a lot more mobile, if our next solution in 5 years is to go completely away from desktops at their desk and make them mobile, then yes, maybe we need to keep that same infrastructure build out. So do I foresee it? At this time, no, but there's, you never know how technology is going to move.
Okay, thank you.
I have one question. So with the upgrades that we're going to be putting into the IT, is it coincide or does it work in unison with any of the new fiber and, the cable type build out that's going on currently within the city?
Absolutely. This fortifies our internal network to be able to service with the speeds that they're going to be bringing into our network. And currently, we don't have that capability. So, absolutely, it works hand in hand.
Okay, that's all I have. Thanks.
Solomon? Let's see if there's any spelling errors.
I don't have any questions, but couple of typos in the resolution, so we can
What
do
you
it
got?
later.
I'm listening. What does it
First whereas, second line, last, it should say, and other program areas, not other programs areas.
Got it?
And then seventh whereas, second line, Rescue Plan Act funds to complete, not complete to.
Got it.
That's it. Thank you.
Did I mention that I want you to read my son's college essay whenever it happens? Just wanted to share with you that
I'd be glad
8
to.
years from now, when we're friends, I do fully expect that.
He
So
has a talent we look forward to.
I saw that the quote was for hardware, right? Is there any amount, are you going to have to contract out the labor?
All labor will be done in-house. And the nice thing about this is that the lead time on these is months out. So it's gonna be a good project to be able to onboard one of my new, because we're currently out in the hiring process now to get that new person a good idea of the infrastructure and what they, some of the basically the infrastructure.
Do you have enough bandwidth to go mobile around City Hall with, you know what I'm saying, like with your workstations? Because I know at least the few offices I've been in, people are still having to use desktops. Maybe it'd be easier if they were using laptops or,
That is one thing that we're talking about with Project 3, which is the VDI project, is are we going to stick with a typical thin client on their desks, or are we going to give them a laptop for access to those systems? That's one thing that we've been having discussions about.
Thanks, Matt.
well, thank you, Matt, for being here. I got a couple different ones. So PoE, just because I mentioned it, is power over Ethernet. And so what it means is that you don't have to run a power cord to anything. So all the power is transferred through the Cat6 cable, which is certainly advantageous. And I'm just going to cover a couple quick points to make sure that I'm on the same page, and then a couple questions.
Absolutely.
Can you go back 2 slides to the map? And out of the first floor all the way to the first floor. My curiosity question is, we only have 8 access points right now. We're upgrading to 44.
Correct.
If we were to try and imagine, for the sake of the public, what our heat map looks like right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Some of those 44s are going to be spares. So they're not. But no, currently it looks like you have the one in the green area that's sitting in the back room right here. We have one upstairs in administration in the mail room. We have one downstairs in the police department, and then our 4th one is out at our radio room for service for that parking lot. That's what that looks like.
So to put that into concept for the public that is looking and watching, anybody who's ever went to a hospital or to something else and they say, we've got free Wi-Fi, while you're in the lobby, you can wait. And you log in and you're ready to throw your phone at the wall after about 10 minutes because to load Facebook or Twitter or whatever other stupid program you're using, you're waiting 10 minutes for it to upload. And that's what they're talking about. And what Matt's talking about when he talks about the data rates of how fast the multiple users can access. And this is really important is let's just pretend we were in a budget session, which is coming up on May 28th. May 25th, sorry. I had it written down, this is on a different page. but that's my first, and I'm going to remind it 4 times before the course of the meeting's over, is let's say we were up here and we wanted to take a survey or a poll of people. Right now, if we had this room full, it would, the current Wi-Fi system would go bleh. That's how technology works. To your question, Peggy, I'm not speaking format, but I would say it's reasonable to expect that we will have replacements within 5 years and that the price will be higher than it was today. I would say both are reasonable expectations because technology is moving as fast. And to prove that point is anybody who has an iPhone that's 5 years or older, go ahead and stand up. Travis Reed, that explains a lot.
I would expect less.
I would expect that less. You're getting more than 5. You're getting my point is that technology is moving very, very quickly. It's an exponential change rate, and Wi-Fi is not something that people no longer are people saying, "Oh, it's kind of nice they have it." It's an expectation now, especially at any type of public service or public facility, which the city is. When you talked about Kerr-McGee as well, Kerr-McGee has so many more uses even beyond what the city is, correct? Mm-hmm. And we have 3 access points over there right now?
Yes.
So we're talking about a layering that is immensely different in terms of ability. Anybody who's been at the EOC conference, we like the Wi-Fi at EOC, okay? This is a perfect example of those types of improvements. And I want to make sure that they understand this is to make everyone's ability to use our city resources better. And we talked about the outdoor. Right now, if you were in Freedom Park, there is no access point. This now, again, makes our splash pad. It makes our areas of the park. It makes all of those things more functional use of our community. These are improvements that are good for the community. When tied with race communications and with the fiber project that's in process, that was the redundancy and the twofold that we get so much more out of. When you have 2 lines running, I always use the term, think of it like a toilet. If you have a toilet that's backed up because everybody's at the same time, then what happens? It takes a lot longer to get everything down the pipe. Mm-hmm. If you have 2 pipes running, okay, and they're not little pipes, they're pipes that are this big, then guess what? Everything moves faster. That's for Travis. That was a wastewater comment just for you. Hashtag wastewater. The last thing was, you mentioned it, but I don't know that we specifically talked about it, which is, are we going to have a landing or branded page at access? Now, let me explain. I know what you're talking about, but I also want to make sure the public understands what I'm talking about. Anybody stayed at a Marriott, a Hilton, or any other hotel, and you go to log into their hotel Wi-Fi, it doesn't take you to type in the password. It takes you to their web page or some type of landing page, which announces their brand and then requires you to sign up or agree. Are we going to have that for access?
Yeah, city manager and I have had discussions about this, and we see that as a priority to have branding at that access layer. We have talked about a couple different ideas, but yes, that is definitely a priority.
And are we going to talk about having multiple channels of volume? And what I mean by that is, just like the example I gave you, if you're a Marriott Rewards customer, you get on their higher speed for streaming and downloading. If you're not, then you get on their lower speeds for email and text. Will we have a differentiation within our system?
Absolutely, yes.
There you
That's
go.
going to be, for our internal services, they basically sit on different VLANs, which are different networks for security purposes. Our public ones will all sit on walled off networks so that they can't touch our internal networks, and we'll be able to QoS them as well, which is quality of service for each one of those SSIDs that we spin up, and we can do that on the fly too to be able to have them to be able to have it branded for them.
Fantastic. And then last but not least is, I just wanted to make sure for any public comment, this is not a Parks and Rec project under ARPA, correct?
Correct. This is an IT project.
Perfect. Okay. Any other council questions? Hearing none? Is there any questions from the public? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the phones? I'll give it a few seconds once again to allow for any comments. Hearing none, I'll bring it back to council. Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, do I have a motion for approval of the resolution as presented?
Motion to approve.
I'm sorry,
Second.
what?
Motion
Oh, as
to
amended
approve,
for
as
the
amended.
spelling errors, correct. Thank you, Martin. I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Wait, am I getting a call? I will allow it. Is there a caller?
Hello,
Hello, caller. Go ahead and state your name.
that's Ronald Porter. That's too late now.
No, sir, we'll allow it. No problem. Sir, we'll go ahead and allow your comment. Please go ahead.
Okay. Well, I actually had a question.
Okay, sir.
The question is, what's your current throughput now for the public area?
So currently, the public goes out on MediaCom, which is a gig downlink and 50 meg uplink. We do have that QoS to, I believe it's 20 meg per device of download. That's currently what we're at.
Okay. Is there? Do you know how much the cost is going to be for the public part of it?
The cost to the consumer, to the public, it will be free.
No. You're going to have two costs here, one for the internal and one for the external. Did you divide that?
I don't think we're talking about a cost for the external. We're just talking about separating them so that you can manage individual devices that are city devices versus public devices.
Well, you said they were separate because of security. That's why I was wondering.
Yeah, so they're separate due to security in our internal network. They do share the same pipe going out to the internet. So that's some of the reasons that we QoS the public devices so that we don't have somebody that comes onto the network and tries to download a movie or such. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir. So I'll go and bring it back. I had a motion, and then I don't know whether I had a second. Did I have a second? I have a motion and second. And
We can vote now. Please vote. Five ayes, motion carries.
thank you, Matt. And I'm excited to see this. This is another big step in making the technology improvements and next stop parks.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, next item is discussion item number 5. This is discussion regarding the board of the Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority. Mr. Heyman.
Thank you, Mayor. The Groundwater Authority did meet last week, and so I'll update everybody on that meeting. So start with included in the consent agenda, there was a resolution 02-22 that pertained to the appointment of Donna Ogilvy as the Navy liaison to the PAC. And so that was approved. And secondly, there was the item, or the agenda item was pertained to the executive order that I believe Councilman Blades had touched base with us on at the last meeting, which was the executive order by Governor Newsom N-7-22 that pertains to the drilling or re-drilling of non-de minimis wells within the basin. And so basically we were given a brief review of it. There was no in-depth coverage of from the GA on it, but and again, it just pertains to new drilling. Non-de minimis wells will go through their standard agencies, but yet then they'll come back to the Groundwater Authority for written approval, and pertaining to, that they do not negatively affect the GSP or cause subsidence or affect neighboring wells and basically any negative attributes that it may or may not have. And so any further coverage we'll get down the road, I can bring back to the board. Following that, we approved a letter to be sent off to the Indian Wells Valley Water District in regards to the fallowing program. And basically that letter pertains to getting a formal response back from the Water District on their position on the following program. So once we hear back from them, I'll have some follow-up on that item. Next, I believe we had the general water resource managers report. And so some of the highlights in that report were they spoke about the groundwater dependent ecosystems, which pertains to the natural flora and plant life that depends on the groundwater in itself and for their survivability. So they had 4 sites that were chosen and 2 added sites that were brought on. There was also discussion in regards to the Rose Valley wells that are being or will be drilled in the future. Those wells will give data as to the impact that the Rose Valley water, the impacts of Rose Valley into our aquifer, as far as the amount of recharge and any of the data that they'll be able to get from it. So basically are awaiting contracts from the Navy, signed contracts from the Navy on those wells. There was also a very good discussion by Gene Moran, who's in charge of the data gathering. So we've spoke about this in the past. It's been brought up numerous times by the water district. They keep voicing their concerns, and I keep saying that it's been handled. And so this time I can honestly say that she gave a good report. Prior to COVID, there was 143 wells that were being monitored. Now there's 154 wells that are being monitored. So there's more wells being monitored now than there were prior to COVID. And so they are not only back up and running, but have improved upon it. That was pretty much it from the Water Resource Manager's report. There was a discussion from the general manager, who April filled in for, on the audit, which they have received everything they need from the GA, and so they'll be looking at, she explained that we're looking at approximately May-ish, end of May. We should hear back from Brown Armstrong on the audit. That was another concern that the Water District has continued to voice concern about, but so rest assured it is in process and should be handled. And let me think here. Capital Corps, they are working really hard. They have submitted the request for the state budget request for $5 million for the wastewater treatment plant, which directly affects the city of Ridgecrest. The Assemblyman Fong's office has responded back that he is sponsoring that request, and I do believe that Senator Shannon Grove is working very diligently on her end.
She submitted it also.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Mayor Add.
She submitted it as well.
She had submitted it as well, and I just want to formally say it, but I appreciate you adding that to it. So Senator Grove's office is working diligently in support of our receiving this $5 million budget request. And I believe that sums up the meeting. So if anybody would like to add or have any questions they'd like to ask, or feel free. But
no, it's a pretty good summary. I think I was happy to see that the data gaps were getting filled.
yes, she gave a very good, she had a map, and I think I mentioned it before. I may see if I can't integrate like some of those highlights where it's just good visual data to bring it before the council and maybe have it thrown up on the screen if it's possible. But she had a map showing all the different sites, and it's good to see that we're not only receiving data on the level that we were prior to COVID, but we're above that now.
I don't have anything other than, again, reiterating my thanks to Senator Groves and Assemblyman Fong for standing up. I don't know that the public really understands how important something like a $5 million budgetary item is to the city of Ridgecrest, but for everyone out there who shall chime the great drum of taxes are terrible, that's $5 million that you don't have to try to pay back through some other form of expense. And thank you to our legislators for working with us and trying to get this done. We appreciate it. Peggy, anything?
No, thank you.
Is there any comment from the public? We'll start with the floor. Is there any public comment? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the phones? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and give it a few seconds to see if there's any other public comment. Seeing none, okay, we'll go ahead and move on with our next item. Item number 6 is introduction and first reading of an ordinance amending the Ridgecrest Municipal Code regarding zoning clearance step to the approval process for land use entitlements. Mrs. Spurlock.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. So this item is an amendment to our zoning code in regards to zoning clearance. So just to kind of clarify this, generally, if a business is going in somewhere, they may do tenant improvements and pull a building permit. At that time, with the building permit, it would trigger a review for the occupancy, which is a building classification that determines like the safety of the building for use. At this time, we don't have anything that would trigger a review if you don't pull a building permit. So that is what this is. So this would trigger a review from planning for zoning, just to make sure that it's in the right zone. But it would also prevent people from renting buildings that they may not understand the full cost associated with bringing that building up to the building code for the type of occupancy that they're wanting to use it for. So in here, I included what we would think the application would look like. So it just kind of gives you an idea of what kind of information we would be collecting. That's it. So this is just a first reading. It did go to Planning Commission in March, and they recommended approval. That's it.
I have one question, Heather, may I ask at this time? There was a list of the business classifications, say that in English, and I did not understand one that seemed kind of esoteric in when you did it, and it was shoe shining. And it just seemed to me to pull that one business out and rather than putting it in as an itinerant merchant or some of those other things that it can be general. Why is shoe shining one all by itself?
So to remain consistent with the already existing, those are the classifications that are on the business license application
Okay.
right now.
It just seemed like
Yeah.
it was kind of narrow.
I agree. And again, I just used the classifications that we already had. That way we're not classifying businesses different on one application than we are on another.
Okay. That was my only question. The other things were, because they were similar and the same as something we're already doing, it was my only question.
Scott?
Not at this moment.
So just to kind of do the layman's terms for what we're talking about. I buy a building, okay? I take the building, it's zoned for commercial, and I build 15 apartments inside of it. Problem.
Right.
And right now, if we didn't pull a building permit and I just chose to do it on the inside without ever saying a word to anybody, we would have a substantial zoning and proper usage issue that probably isn't going to get triggered until either one, the tragic event happens, okay? Or two, somebody catches that, wait, hold on, this is not. This is a process that gives us the ability to proactively catch those things, correct?
Right. Absolutely. And it would assist, the business community too, as they're starting a business, they may not be aware of the occupancy rules for the California Building Code. And so this would kind of trigger that and assist those business owners when they're trying to start a business, that maybe a childcare can't be located in a commercial professional office without significant improvements.
And what's the cost for this to a prospective business? Let's just say that we have a prospective business that's looking to purchase one of our abandoned properties or something to that effect, and I want to know what my rules are, aren't. What are they going to incur in terms of cost?
So we haven't set a fee yet. So once this has gone through the 2 required meetings, then I would come back and set a fee. But I would assume at this time, this is probably something close to what the home occupation permit fee is. So that's like $75.
Again, in my opinion, personally, perfectly reasonable. Okay. Sorry, but I got to jump on the shoe shining. So I'm guessing that we probably need to update the application too at some point.
Yeah, that would be the business license application. So I can agree. And I suppose if you were starting shoe shining, that would probably be a mobile type of business.
Yeah, well, I mean, and what's interesting, and just to jump onto the side of the shoe shining is internet-based or data-based is not there, but shoe shining is. It's one of those that Ridgecrest is trying to move out of the 1970s and reach 2022, and that goal should be something we want to reach for. And that's why I'm having a little bit of fun with it, so don't worry. Your answer was perfect. I'm just having a little fun with it. Okay. What, you got to chime in? I'm just going to go with the idea that we have taken the time to build regulations in for shoe shining is humorous in its own right.
Or as opposed to car washing.
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, Mr. Mayor, do we want to have Travis come up and explain what a VOC is, since he said it from the crowd?
You did.
I believe Councilman Blades would now like you to approach and explain what a VOC is. This is called open mouth insert foot.
No, I think it's great.
No, I think it's good.
You're like an
I thought it was
encyclopedia, Travis.
interesting.
Yeah, that's it. We got-
Is that a pink tie?
Encyclopedia of useless
Orange.
knowledge.
Good evening, all. So essentially, and I'm going to just say I believe this is where it comes from. I don't know.
Here we go.
But shoe shining uses chemicals that are known to the state and to the country to have volatile organic compounds in them. And since a shoe shining business can be both mobile and can also be done in a facility, typically it doesn't fall under one occupation because you can have it in a commercial zone. It could be zoned in, you could have a shoe shining place in a B occupancy, which is like business or mercantile, or in other words, an office building, right? Or it could be in an H, in a hazardous. So because it falls under multiple occupancies, they classify it and try to deal with things like that differently.
So VOC is volatile organic chemical.
Organic compound.
Compound. So any place that would have that would have some type of disclosure?
Essentially, yes. So that's like one of the things that you can see like on like all your paints. Where I've ran into it the most is when I was working at the water district. All the paints that we would line the inside of the tanks with that worked really well and protected the steel tanks had volatile organic compounds in them. Those are known to leach into certain, when certain chemical or minerals are present, those can leach out of the paint into water, into any sort of a liquid, into, and then your body absorbs them, your body cannot get rid of them.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Have those been removed?
From what?
The tanks?
Yes, those have been removed. That was from the old coatings back in the day.
It's interesting, I think.
That was very interesting. Thank you, Travis. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. Okay, any other council comments? Question?
I have a quick question. So, under the staff report, it says the intent is to provide new commercial businesses with appropriate zoning and building requirement to ensure health and safety. And under the ordinance, there's not a page number, but down under zoning clearance review, second paragraph down, general provisions. It says, projects requiring a zoning clearance include but are not limited to establishment of a new use within an existing building in conjunction with obtaining a business license, individual custom homes on lots of record, and minor additions to residential structures or lots, including patio covers, pools, spa, detached accessory structures. So it does pertain to residential?
I'm going to defer that to Martin. Who wrote it?
I think the language would deal with mixed-use type of structures. In other words, where you have commercial on the bottom, residential on the top, live and work units, that sort of an arrangement is where zoning clearance would be required, not for a single-family residence in an R1 zone.
So it's safe to say then that it doesn't affect residential housing in and of itself?
No, it does not.
Thank you, sir. That's my only question.
Solomon, you have anything?
Just out of curiosity, do we have a planning director position?
A what?
Because it said, if the planning director determines that the use approved under the zoning ordinance, so anybody from the planning department, you mean, or?
That's the standard language we use. No, we do not have a planning director.
We could write or his designee.
Yeah, it should be or designate.
What does it
Yeah,
mean?
I can assign a designee, and in this case, it would be our planning analyst.
Kyle? Or did you have something? No, did you have the questions? I'm sorry. No.
Rika, one correction here. Do you have that second page, item E? Modification or revocation, not of revocation.
What should it be instead of?
E, item E.
Uh-huh.
Modification or
Or
revocation.
revocation. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. No, I'm not.
Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to catch up. My apologies. Kyle?
No questions.
Okay. I have no other questions. I will go ahead and take it to the public. Is there any public comment in regards to this? Yay, public comment.
Nicole's here, yay.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Nicole Harper, and my question is, so the application that you were talking about, is that in the agenda for the public, or is it just on the staff information?
It's included in the agenda.
Okay, and this is the one time I didn't read the agenda, right? And I really have a question this time. How funny, right? So, because this one is close to my heart. So I'm wondering, is there a lot of information in the agenda given on this topic? Or if one is interested on finding out more information on this topic, how do I do that?
It's in the agenda packet.
Your copy.
It's in the agenda pack. I'd probably also go watch the planning commission meeting,
Yes.
the previous planning commission meeting, which I know it was discussed.
Okay.
And questions beyond that, I'm sure that Heather would be happy to speak with you and answer those.
Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Nicole. Do I have any other public comment from the floor? Seeing none? Public comment on the phones? Caller, go ahead.
This is Ronald Porter. Hello.
Go ahead, sir.
Mike.
Mr. Porter, can we ask that you turn your TV down, please?
I did. It just didn't go down far enough.
Thank you very much, sir.
The button wasn't cooperating. My first question is, what did we have that the incidents that we had in Ridgecrest that brought this idea about to write this ordinance?
Okay. And I was going to say, go ahead and make any other comments, and then I'll have staff come up and address that for you, sir.
Oh, well, okay, but I'm trying to figure out, because some of it doesn't, they want to have a fee for it, but my understanding, this is something to make sure that the public can, whether we make sure it's easier for people to bring businesses and stuff, and I wonder about a fee. I think it's a great idea that we set up, say, hey, we want people to come and ask these questions before where there is a problem. It assists the city and it assists the business people.
Mr. Porter, this is Travis Reed, the Public Works Director, and what brought this about is there is standard language in the California Code, which the city adopted back in the 80s when it was formed, that basically say that any business, any change in what we call use, there's different, I guess the best way for me to describe for you is an example, and it's more of a question. Would you build a doctor's office the same way you would build a restaurant? And the answer is no. There's vents in restaurants, there's things like that. So what this does is this allows us to differentiate if there truly is a change of use. And if there is a change in use, it reenacts the code. So that makes that building come up to standard code. So not only does it protect somebody who thinks they can rent a 1970s building from a tenant and not do anything in it and not have to do anything, and know that, hey, when we come into this, this is a change of use. I'm going to have $200,000 worth of upgrades to do to this building. Can I sustain a business having to put out $200,000, or does the landlord need to do something to help us with that? And it also helps with
I understand all that.
yeah, so when we deal with use and with all that good stuff, it gives us a mechanism which we can trigger it to tell this person that's applying for a business license, before you sign a contract, we want to make sure that you're aware that this building was built in the 70s, the last known use was an M, and if you want to make it a gym, that's now an A occupancy, and there's ventilation requirements that have to get changed. There's ingress,
Fire requirements, I understand all that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's essentially what it is. It's not only to protect the public, but it's to also aid the city in getting infrastructure that's decrepit brought up to current standards.
And then, Mr. Porter, just because Mr. Reed did not state it, Ridgecrest Vineyard Church on Norma, we had a planning issue and a public issue that had to be addressed, and that led us to, again, a proactive approach to making sure that we have tools to allow new property owners to ensure that it is properly coded for the commercial. I know you asked a specific question about cause, and I want to give you a specific answer.
Yeah, I mean, I just wondered if there was a particular one. But my biggest point here is, reading the ordinance, is I'm looking at it as the government's here to help people get something done. And I don't see it doing that as well as it should. Maybe they should, I don't know how to answer it, but instead of having a fee, you want people to come in and ask these questions. It's, okay, I have a problem. What do I do? You may have to do something later to say this has to be changed. But I see the more important is this is one of these issues that you want them to come in and ask the question.
Yeah, Mr. Porter, you're correct. People do come in and ask questions all day long about how to start a business, what the zoning is. This is just a little bit more formalized process when you're actually coming to the city wanting to pull a new business license. So we make sure that whatever location that you're going to be reopening that business in has the proper occupancy and is zoned right. So we still offer free advice to the community when they, want to come in and ask questions.
Oh, I'm not disagreeing with you. I said, from looking at this and what's been said, I think they need to use it a little more promotions. We want to bring them in earlier. Like I said, some people might not think they need a new different business license. I just think it'd be better for everybody. I'm just not talking about it. We improve it, not change it.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reed. Okay, is there any other public comment on the phones? Seeing none, I'll give a few seconds to make sure that we have no other callers. Okay, no other callers. We'll go ahead and bring it back to council. Is there any other council questions? Hearing none, then I got to get my words here right. Do I have a motion to waive reading in full an ordinance of the City Council of Ridgecrest, California, an ordinance amending the Ridgecrest Municipal Code regarding zoning clearance step to the approval process for land use entitlements?
So move.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and second.
Please vote. There you go. Please vote. 5 ayes, motion passes.
And second, do I have a motion to introduce by title only an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Ridgecrest, California, an ordinance amending the Ridgecrest Municipal Code regarding zoning clearance step to the approval process for land use entitlements?
So moved. Sorry, Solomon.
Jinx, you owe me a Coke. Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Second.
Please vote. Motion passes 5 ayes.
Thank you, Heather. Okay, next is our committee reports. And Ms. Breeden asked me to go ahead and cover City Org. City Org met on the 7th. City Org has a lovely laundry list of old business and not a whole lot of new business, to be brutally honest. That's because our laundry list of old business right now includes a fire contract, not so much wastewater, but wastewater is a factor in there, and the waste, the trash ordinance. In addition, we have been actively working on a project for the county buildings and museum areas in regards to some street names, as well as the bulk of our time was spent, again, working very diligently with staff to brainstorm the most effective ways to ensure that you, the public, get information in the proper and timely manner for the rollout of SB 1383 and the trash, the organics trash mandate, as well as is the public getting the proper level of information in regards to the fire contract and where we're at in terms of the implementation. The fire contract is largely signed and done at this point. It's now how do we pay for it? But trash is still got several months of implementation still in front of it. We've got the ordinance pieces out of the way, but I think Megan will still be seeing 3 barrels for another 9 to 12 months without question. And she'd give me a little chuckle because I know what she's going through on that. Beyond that, it was a general meeting. I want to once again ask and encourage the public to come out to any one of your city committee meetings, because the best way to understand what all we're working on and the ideas that are being shared is with your participation at those meetings. And we are working towards making sure that we get as much information out to the public for these big implementations. It's going to be a busy, busy year, especially in the back half of the year in terms of information, and we encourage the public to engage in that process.
That was it.
Thank you.
Appreciate you doing that.
No problem. Next was Finance Committee. Scott, you want to take this one, or you want me to?
I'll let you.
Oh, goody. I love hearing myself speak. That was sarcasm, people. Yeah. Ask my office. Finance Committee met last week. Again, I want to encourage members of both the public as well as any members of our city staff to join us at a Finance Committee meeting to understand just how strongly our 2 council members, myself and Mr. Amon, are looking, analyzing, discussing, communicating with our staff, very specifically in focus around where has our tax base shifted over the last 2 years or 2 or 3 years? How much of that tax base is sustainable, which is a very key word, especially as it relates to the staff salary schedules. We are actively working on those solutions, and once again, budget. Once again, just a reminder that on May 25th, we'll be having our budget meeting here. That workshop is important to this public, and it's important to you understanding the number of things that we have planned and that we're working on and why we're turning to the public for needs or concerns, or also why we're turning to the public for the future of our city. The other important thing that was discussed is where we stand on several different areas of our overall revenue. We need another finance meeting. We'll have it in the beginning of May. We'll get some additional insights from HDL, which is our consultant who has been meeting with staff. We want to make sure that we deliver a budget that covers as many of the challenges that we know we have as possible. And that definitely includes the staff salary. And that's all that we have to say right now. But I can just let my words be strong that there is no Finance Committee meeting that is occurring that does not talk about this critical issue and working to find the solutions for it. And we hope to have more at our next meeting, and then obviously at our budget workshop on May 25th. That's 3. And we look forward to seeing you there. Any other?
No, I think you did a great job.
Okay, great. Economic development, somebody else talk. Kyle?
You can take it.
No, I wasn't there.
Yeah, no, there wasn't, Economic Development Committee didn't go too long, but we did discuss ICSC and Monterey and how that went. If you guys didn't hear or haven't relayed back to you, it was pretty successful. Megan did a lot of hard work. A lot of hard work, and getting prepared for that and while we were there. The event at Monterey is different from Las Vegas in that it is a much more intimate setting, and it is also specific to California vendors, businesses, et cetera. So it's easier to get time with folks. It's easier to sit down with different people. So we were encouraged by our consultant, and that's how we ended up there. And it was fruitful, I thought. So thank you, Megan, for all that hard work that you did. And then we also talked about franchises. That's another thing that came out of ICSC. We must have walked around to several different booths, and multiple folks said, well, we'd love to be in Ridgecrest, but we just don't have a franchise owner. And they were drop dead serious. We've looked at your numbers, we've looked at your maps, we've looked at your real estate. You look great, we'd love to be there, just in a franchise owner. Now, whatever that reason is, I brought up maybe trying to find a conference or something to that effect so I could educate myself on behalf of the city to assist in bringing in franchise owners. I don't know what it is I'm going to learn, but I don't know what I don't know. I believe that's about all that came out of the economic. Solomon, did I miss anything?
Covered everything.
Cool, thanks.
Great, thank you. Next is other committees, boards, or commissions.
I have Kern Cog.
Go for it.
Oh, yeah, you're probably up.
RACVB. Okay. Good evening, Megan.
Hello, it's been a while since I've been up here, so apologies if my voice is a little shaky. So RACVB, we did meet this morning. We had a couple things that we went over, so some updates on the California Welcome Center. We did see a big increase in visitors to the Welcome Center, about 60% from February to March, and a lot of that is due to some of the outreach they've been doing. They had a field trip with one of the schools with about 38 students to come check out the exhibits. Let's see, they have actually just been officiated as they have just been validated as an official retailer for geocache, which means that they can bring in people who are interested in geocaching, which is kind of like a scavenger hunt, kind of a free way to get people out in nature and in the area. So they have seen some increase in visitors due to that. They are also got a charter to be a free library. So May is Get Caught Reading Month, and so they're going to be making that another resource for the community as well, trying to bring in some locals as well as travelers. They're also doing some outreach to the local hotels and restaurants, just trying to coordinate the best way to kind of market themselves, get the word out there, let people know that the Welcome Center's here. And then they also had a Rock Art Foundation seminar with demos, and that brought in quite a few overnight visitors for that event. They're seeing most of the travel is coming through the Death Valley and up on through Highway 395 north and south. And they are seeing increase in foreign travelers as well. So they are looking for anybody who has connections with any of the tour bus companies to get in touch with them. I guess there's been a lot of new contacts that have changed, so they're looking for ways to connect with these tour buses, bring them over to the Welcome Center. And as part of that, they do have designated parking available there that they can kind of do the big wide lanes so they can bring buses, RVs, and that kind of thing in. They just don't have it striped yet, so that's something that they're maybe considering moving forward with. 2 grants that they brought up. The EV charger grant, they're revisiting the idea for that, and with some potential to possibly collaborate with some of the neighboring businesses to help share the costs. And they're going to need permission from the property owner, which they don't consider is going to be a challenge. Another one that they just recently submitted is the California Welcome Center Program mini grant for $15,000. The goal of that program is to install experiences in the California Welcome Centers. So their proposal is to build some infrastructure for the outdoor area, which is kind of barren right now. So they're thinking of maybe doing some like shade structures, tables and chairs to kind of make that area a little bit more welcoming for both residents and visitors. There was a suggestion that maybe doing something like a dog bar where there's water and places for dogs to be able to hang out outside, because a lot of people travel with their pets. So just another consideration. They're just throwing around a lot of ideas. One other thing that we did, we mentioned it at the Economic Development Committee as well, is Heritage Inn is looking for a restaurateur to manage that property, and we did touch on that in RACVB as well. So it's basically a turnkey operation. It's going to be financed by the hoteliers. They have a liquor license, and they're currently undergoing renovations, so they're looking for experienced restaurateurs who are interested to get in touch. So you can either contact me, come to a EDC meeting, or get in touch with Carrie with the RACVB, and we'll get you connected with the right people. A couple upcoming events. May 14th to 15th, there's going to be a softball tournament. They're expecting about 16 teams, and they're going to be offering coupons and flyers for local businesses, restaurants, and that kind of thing to help get people out in the town, supporting local businesses. And then we do have the five-a-side soccer tournament coming up on Memorial Day. RACVB will be sponsoring that, so they'll be helping by renting the field and supplying porta potties on site. And they really want to kind of build that relationship with the local sports commission for the future as well. And then I guess the last thing, just touching on, they will be kind of focusing on rebranding in the future. So it's no longer going to be the RACVB. It's going to become California Welcome Center Ridgecrest. The website will still remain Go Ridgecrest, but all the RACVB type of marketing is going to be rebranded in the next few months as we transition to being more of that California Welcome Center network. So, and then the last thing I had was March saw a big jump in occupancy and rates for the hotels. So a lot of people traveling through in the last month. Any questions?
I do have one question. Since Doug Luke is leaving, so who is filling that gap?
Good question. So what they're going to do is Doug Luke he's going to be leaving officially, but he's still going to be involved quite a bit as a volunteer kind of / consultant. And Carrie Crutcher, the executive director, will be absorbing a lot of his duties as film commissioner with help from her administrative analyst or assistant, Diana Palacios. That's her name, I believe. You're welcome.
I had a quick question. In regards to Death Valley and the tourism trade, we're a welcoming center. Is Death Valley a welcoming center?
No, it's not a welcome center. Carrie does do a lot of kind of, I guess you'd call collaboration with the deserts, California Deserts group, and that does include Death Valley and I believe Palm Springs. Is that right, Eric?
And
Joshua Tree. So there is kind of a desert, Visit CA Deserts. So they do have a network that they kind of coordinate with them. They did go to the event in Las Vegas in, November? I'm not confident on the date on that, but I do know that they shared a booth with, I believe for that one, they chose to go with 29 Palms. But
so when...
Yeah, they've kind of had some flexibility on which group they could kind of fit in with.
So when folks are traveling, through Death Valley and say they stop at Stovepipe Wells or the gift shop or, is there anything that's promoting Ridgecrest or that people can see?
I think that's the goal moving forward. I'm not sure if it's there now, but I know Carrie and the rest of the board has been working to build that relationship up so that we can make sure we are able to advertise in those kind of Stovepipe Wells areas or Panamint, that type of thing. So, because I know Xanterra is the company that owns, I think, both Furnace Creek and Stovepipe Wells, but Panamint Springs is not owned by Xanterra. It's a private, and it's in Death Valley National Park, but it's actually one valley over, but still on that travel area.
Yeah, because I can see where that'd be a real beneficial thing to have, something, catching the eyes of, travelers coming through there, that Ridgecrest is a close proximity, town with all the amenities, hotels and restaurants and things to,
And I did bring up, because I drive in from Trona every day, so I did bring up like, oh, why don't we have something on the 178, maybe like I know we have it, on the 395 or right off when you come into Inyokern, but as far as I know, it's just there's not really anything on the 178 as you're coming in from Death Valley until you get basically to that turnoff to go towards Johannesburg. I'm not great with geography, I apologize, but yes, thank you.
Good, thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? None here?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay, Kernkog?
I was just saying it's coming up.
Oh, you have it. Oh, I thought you already had it. I don't have any others to report. Cal Cities, are you going to that conference in May?
You know, I was just talking about that with Rika. I need to schedule that soon. I have a work schedule I got to deconflict, so I'm trying to deconflict that. But.
Okay. I was just going to share, just again for the public, one of the things that we're excited about is it looks like we've applied for to be one of the like breakout conversations at that conference, which is great. I mean, they actually we submitted and we're talking about how we've made such strides and improvements in communication, especially over the past year, and that's just a kudos to our staff for not only doing such a good job, but also then being recognized by our vendors as an example of what they want to show in terms of good efforts. So,
yeah, Megan's going to do great on that panel.
Oh, if you could see the faces that Kyle is getting. Okay.
No, there's two different. That's in September.
Is that September? Oh, sorry.
No, don't be. There's one next.
I think one in May is Legislative Day.
Oh, okay.
We don't normally.
That's why I said, because I'd already been there. Okay.
Right.
I just wanted to compliment our staff. I'm trying here, peeps.
Actually, I think Megan's been working really hard to, prop up Councilman Blades here. So I think they got a great speaking
all
role.
joking aside, I mean, Megan is going to help me and hopefully be a crutch, but I'll be up on the panel as far as I know. Yeah, cue cards. That'll be great.
The big thing is, all joking aside, is it's amazing what happens when you start putting your mind to doing positive work and how things start to get recognized. And that's what I really wanted to compliment our staff on, is that positive direction that the communication is really starting to turn. Okay. Any other committees, boards, or commissions?
Desert, there's a BLM roundtable meeting. It's on my calendar. I think it's next Thursday.
Oh, really?
I get the emails. I can forward it on to you, Rick. Yeah.
I got one.
Yeah, I may have not seen emails today, but.
So I'm going to make every effort to be there, but if I can deconflict the rest of my schedule.
I can tell you that I know I'm meeting with a couple of people from that same group and some other invitees next week to talk about the OHV and what it might take to get an OHV real conversation re-going again. I know this is something that's been talked about many times over.
It has. So that's been talked about in the past quite a bit, and it's a very good conversation to have. But whatever those conversations have been, we have to reignite them. They've gone, but some of the paths they've taken, no pun intended, is finding routes out of town, having the BLM work with the county, work with us to get structures for people to meet underneath, mapping, right? Friends of Jawbone has done a lot of mapping of all the various trails. I'm sure it's working. We got to work with BLM to see how many trails we really want to promote, and which ones we don't. We may not want, up behind the college, a lot of razors ripping up and down where people are jogging or riding their mountain bikes. So anyways, it's all long conversations to have, but we got to get it back going. And I think the BLM is willing. They seemed willing a couple of years ago, so we'll get that figured out.
Yeah, the big point here is conversations that should have long been going. This is the great reset out there is also sometimes internally too.
So for those who don't know, I guess I should have said that. It will be
at BLM on Thursday.
I don't know, man. Well, it's coming up next few days, but the roundtable is open to the public, and it's probably one of the only times that you'll get to actually talk to like the director of BLM, our local director. You get Friends of Jawbone there, and a few other members of the community.
It's a bigger group. Okay, thank you. Okay, city manager report.
Yes, just one item. We're getting really close to finalizing the new waste management franchise agreement. We did get the pricing sheet from Waste Management. It does look like we're going to be seeing an increase of under $6 for families per month, and that includes a 5% cost of living increment in there also that we probably would have seen this July due to the inflation. So our goal is to get that agreement finalized, get all the attachments done, and then get it to a point where we can send it out to council for your review. So you guys have a couple weeks to be able to digest it, ask questions of staff before we bring it to council. And I'm hoping, our goal is to bring it the second meeting in May, maybe the first meeting in June, depending upon how things are going. Yes. We're really dependent. We just have just a couple other minor little issues we have to get through. And then, of course, we have to correlate the agreement with all the attachments, and there's several attachments. So we're at the tedious point now.
Well, let me be one of the first to loudly say that anybody out there listening, under $6, if we can pull that off and keep an incredibly economic, a very reasonable economic adjustment for a very sizable state piece of legislation of what SB 1383 is, kudos to our entire team for working the problem, not just trying to rubber stamp it as so many out there might like to state we do. So great job. Future agenda items. Any future agenda items? No?
Second reading and adoption of the ordinance you introduced today.
Yeah, that's Heather won't let us pass on that. She won't let that happen. Neither will Rika. Any other future? No? Okay, mayor and council comments? We're going to go left to right this time. Mr. Blades?
Nothing.
Just want to make an announcement about Mayor's Prayer Breakfast on May 8th, May 5th, right?
Yeah.
It's May 5th, so.
May 5th, Solomon?
I think it's like 6:30 in the morning.
Oh, it's early.
It's early. Very, very
We also.
early.
The Desert Christian Center.
We also will be doing a proclamation for that on May 4th at our meeting. Okay. So you can announce it again then.
Anything else? Anything else? Scott?
I just want to make a comment on, let's see, it was just a couple days ago, I was parked up by the college to go on a mountain bike ride, and as I was getting ready, a truck pulled up and flagged me over, and the guys waved me over, so I went over and talked with them, and it was a couple guys, they're here working on the base, and they were just driving around and looking at the different areas of the city, looking at the college, and so it turned into about a half-hour conversation. Not that I am a gabber, but anyway, I was impressed with they've been driving around looking at, they had been looking at housing, they had been looking at, the different parks, they were up looking at the college, and some of the comments they made, one was from San Francisco and the other one was from Stockton, and they couldn't say enough positive things about Ridgecrest. And they said, one guy said, I spend like $3,000 for rent up there, and he said, and I got to look in here, I could buy a nice house, for way less than that. And so I'm not speaking for the council, because I know everybody in this, at this dice in this room loves Ridgecrest and speaks highly of Ridgecrest, but you hear a lot of people griping about this and that or the other, but these people were from out of town, and one of the comments that he made was, he goes, you guys are in like your own little world out here. He said, this is, and they were really, they seemed energized, they seemed excited about it, and so my thoughts were, wow, we may be getting people moving to Ridgecrest, come down here and work for a while and see what, life's a little different, and all the positive, things that Ridgecrest has to offer. So I thought it was kind of an interesting conversation and kind of a positive thing for the city. But I just want to share that. So I meant to ask Megan about that. If you'd seen any increases in the, like people inquiring as to the community from from that, say from the workforces that's come in, not just the travelers too, but it's probably kind of hard to, because the Welcome Center is pretty new and it's probably hard to discern, statistics down to that level at this point. But anyway, so I just want to share that with everybody. I think it's it was a real positive thing for the town. But anyway, that's it.
That's great comments. Nothing? Okay, so I got just a couple things. First, just want to remind everyone out there that the budget hearing will be on May 25th. That's the fourth and final time. We'd love to see you out here. This is your city budget, and I encourage you to be active and involved in the process. And please don't just leave the budget conversation to 3 or 4 voices. There are 30,000 people in this community, and if you have a voice and believe in the direction that we are going, especially in terms of building out communication, building out our parks and rec, building out our IT infrastructure, helping to ensure that we have the facilities we need to recruit and bring families into this community, then please come and let your voice be heard. You are the silent majority that we do want to hear from, and we do want you to be involved, please. On a separate note, May the 4th, which is our next council meeting, I don't promise or not threaten to come in Jedi robes or anything of that nature, because it will be May the 4th. It'll be the first time I get to sit up here on the dais on my personal day of holiday each year. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I also wanted to share that we'll have something exciting to share with the public amongst the local credit unions for that day that we've been cooking up. So that's going to be a local charity donation that should be a lot of fun. Again, for the Mayor's Prayer Breakfast, we'd love to see you there. And then finally, just the once again incredible reminder of how many things are working. Chipotle, Starbucks, getting close. Within probably a week of doing their final site walk and getting their staffing and resources. Is that about right? Final site walk was on Tuesday, so now they get to start getting ready to ramp up towards their opening. We have the Best Western getting closer and closer to its completion. We have the apartment building, huh? Holiday Inn. Sorry. I thought for some reason I had Best Western in my head, but you're right, Holiday Inn. Holiday Inn getting closer and closer. Anybody driving down Norma, I'm seeing 100+ new units for housing coming together very quickly over by our churches. This, and then once again, as Councilman Rajaratnam and Blake said, the construction projects that are getting kicked off in the base, and this is the forward positive momentum that builds communities and ensures the long-term future of Ridgecrest. And we have to hold on and embrace that as strongly as we can, because there's a huge number of challenges out there, guys. Anybody out there who says inflation isn't a challenge, or the gas price isn't a challenge, or housing costs isn't a challenge, these are all challenges. We all know them. But it's how we endure those challenges and maintain a positive focus on how we build our future will define this community moving forward. And I'm very proud to be working with this council on that direction. And I look forward to seeing everybody on May the 4th be with you. And we'll see you soon.